There are 5 days left until the new year. 5 days until the world pretends everything can start over. 5 days until champagne glasses rise and strangers embrace and the clock strikes midnight on a future that promises to be kinder than the past. But she knows better. She sits in a cramped apartment in Busan, staring at the calendar on the wall. December 26th. Each day crossed out in red ink like a countdown to nothing. Because for her there will be no fresh start. No forgiveness. No resurrection. 1 year ago, on New Year's Eve, a man stood beside her and smiled for the cameras. He held her hand. He whispered promises about the life they would build together. About the company they would grow. About the empire they would share. And then, 3 months later, he took everything. Not just the business they built together. Not just the money she invested. Not just the reputation she spent a decade earning. He took her dignity. He stood in front of investors, in front of journalists, in front of everyone who mattered, and he told them she had stolen from the company. That she had falsified records. That she was unstable. Dangerous. A liability. He showed them documents she never signed, contracts she never saw, evidence manufactured so perfectly that no one questioned it. And when she tried to defend herself, he looked at her with pity. Like she was pathetic. Like she was already forgotten. Within a week, she lost her position. Within 2 weeks, her name was poison in the industry. Within a month, she couldn't get a meeting, couldn't get a loan, couldn't get anyone to return her calls. He didn't just ruin her career. He erased her. And now, 1 year later, he's everywhere. His face on magazine covers. His name in business journals. His success built on the foundation of her destruction. While she counts coins for rice. While she avoids mirrors. While she wonders if anyone even remembers her name. 5 days until the new year. 5 days until he celebrates another year of winning. But in a private office in Seoul, a man who does not celebrate holidays is reviewing a file. A man who does not forgive debts. A man who has decided something very simple. The man who destroyed her will not see the new year. Not with his empire intact. Not with his smile. Not with anything. The clock is ticking. And some countdowns don't end in celebration. Welcome to Forbidden Empire. This is where power answers injustice. Where silence breaks before midnight. Where dangerous men protect what the world discarded. We tell stories about revenge that doesn't announce itself, protection that doesn't ask permission, and love that grows in the space between violence and mercy. If you're drawn to tales where the forgotten are remembered, where the cruel are answered, and where time runs out for those who thought they were untouchable, then you've found your empire. Subscribe. Stay. Because this story begins with 5 days until the new year. And it ends with a man learning that some years, you don't get to finish. Her name is Yuna. 2 years ago that name meant something. She was the youngest senior analyst at Hanseong Capital, one of Seoul's most prestigious investment firms. She had a corner office on the 32nd floor. She had a team of 12 people who respected her. She had a reputation for being brilliant, careful, and impossible to intimidate. She worked 80-hour weeks and never complained. She closed deals that other analysts said were impossible. She made the firm 60 million won in her first year alone. And she was proud of it. Not because of the money, but because she had built it herself. No family connections. No inherited wealth. Just intelligence and refusal to fail. That's where she met him. His name was Kang Minho. He was 34, charming, ambitious. A rising star in the corporate acquisitions department. Harvard MBA. Family money but not enough to coast. He worked hard, smiled easily, and everyone liked him. Including her. At first it was professional. They collaborated on a merger deal, a tech startup acquisition worth 200 million won. She handled the financial analysis. He managed the negotiations. They worked late nights together, ordered takeout to the office, argued over projections and risk assessments. He respected her opinion. He listened when she spoke. He didn't dismiss her the way other men in the firm did. And slowly, carefully, something shifted. He started bringing her coffee in the mornings. Not asking. Just leaving it on her desk with a small smile. He remembered how she took it. No sugar. Extra cream. He began staying late even when his work was finished, just to keep her company while she finished hers. "You shouldn't work alone this late," he said one night. "I'm not alone," she replied, not looking up from her screen. "You're here." He smiled. And she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Say. 3 months later he asked her to dinner. Not as colleagues. As something else. She said yes. They dated quietly at first. The firm had policies about interdepartmental relationships, and neither of them wanted to complicate things. But after 6 months it became obvious. They were together. And it felt real. He met her parents. She met his. They talked about the future. About starting their own firm one day. About building something that belonged to them. "We'd be unstoppable," he said one night, lying beside her in the dark. "Your brain and my connections. We could do anything." "We already are unstoppable," she whispered. He kissed her forehead. "Then let's prove it." 1 year into their relationship they made their move. They pitched a new venture to the senior partners at Hanseong Capital, a private equity branch focused on emerging tech startups. High risk, high reward. The partners were skeptical. But Yuna's track record spoke for itself. And Miho's family name carried weight. They were given approval. A 50 million one-seat fund. 18 months to prove the model. If they succeeded, they'd be given full autonomy and a permanent division. If they failed, they'd be reassigned. It was everything they'd worked for. They moved into a new office. Hired a small team. Started building. For 6 months it was perfect. They closed 3 deals in the first quarter. All profitable. By month 8 they were ahead of projections. Investors were noticing. The senior partners were impressed. Yuna barely slept, but she didn't care. This was hers. Theirs. And then, on a Tuesday morning in March, Miho called an emergency meeting with the senior partners. She wasn't invited. She found out 2 hours later when security escorted her out of the building. Her access card had been deactivated. Her files had been locked. Her team had been reassigned. And Miho stood in the lobby with 2 lawyers and a senior partner, holding a folder full of documents that accused her of embezzlement, fraud, and gross misconduct. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice calm, controlled. "But we have evidence." She stared at him. "What evidence?" He didn't meet her eyes. "Offshore accounts in your name. Transfers made without authorization. Falsified reports submitted to investors." "That's insane," she said, her voice rising. "I never—" "We have the records, Ms. Han," the senior partner interrupted. "Your signature. Your login credentials. Your account numbers. Those aren't mine." "Then how did they get there?" She looked at Miho. He looked at the floor. And she understood. Everything. The late nights he stayed with her, accessing her computer. The coffee he brought every morning, watching her type her passwords. The trust she gave him, used as a weapon. "You did this," she whispered. He said nothing. "You set me up." "I did what I had to do," he said quietly. "For what?" "For the firm. For the future. For yourself," she said. He finally looked at her. And there was nothing in his eyes. No regret. No guilt. Just cold calculation. "You were a liability, Yuna. You pushed too hard. You made enemies. The partners wanted you out and I gave them a reason. We built this together." "No," he said. "I built it. You were just part of the foundation." Security took her by the arm. She didn't resist. She was too numb. As they led her out, she saw him turn and walk back toward the elevator. Back to the office that used to be theirs. That was now only his. The doors closed behind him. And she was gone. Within a week, the story was everywhere. Not the truth. His version. The business journals ran headlines. "Rising star exposes partners' fraud." The investors praised his integrity. The senior partners promoted him. And Yuna became a cautionary tale. The woman who couldn't be trusted. The analyst who got greedy. The partner who betrayed her firm. No one called her. No one believed her. No one cared. Her parents stopped answering the phone. Her friends distanced themselves. Her reputation, 10 years of work, was ash. She tried to fight it. She hired a lawyer. But Miho's documents were perfect. His story airtight. And she had no proof. Just her word against his. And his word was worth more. 6 months later, she was living in Busan in a one-room apartment above a convenience store. She worked part-time stocking shelves. She avoided the news. She stopped looking at her phone. Because every time she did, she saw his face. Another award. Another interview. Another success. Built on her bones. And now it's December 26th. 5 days until the new year. 5 days until he celebrates again. She crosses another day off the calendar. She doesn't know why she bothers. But somewhere in Seoul, a man is reading her file. And he is not crossing off days. He is counting them down. His name is not spoken lightly. In certain circles, circles that exist in the spaces between law and chaos, he is known simply as Jang Seungho. Some call him the broker. Others call him the ghost. Those who have worked with him call him sir. Those who have crossed him don't call anyone anymore. He is 41 years old. He owns a private security consulting firm in Gangnam that handles corporate risk assessment, asset protection, and crisis management for clients who can afford discretion. That's the public story. The private story is different. Jang Seungho controls one of the oldest and most disciplined networks in South Korea's underworld. Not a gang. Not a cartel. Something quieter. More efficient. He brokers deals between people who cannot meet in daylight. He moves money that cannot be traced. He solves problems that cannot be reported. And he does it all without ever raising his voice. He doesn't carry a gun. He doesn't make threats. He doesn't need to. Because when Jang Seungho decides something will happen, it happens. Not because he is violent, but because he is inevitable. He sits now in his office on the 45th floor of a building in Gangnam, looking out over the city as the winter sun sets. His desk is empty except for a single file. The file is thin, but it contains everything. Across from him sits a man in his 50s. Older. Weathered. A former prosecutor turned private investigator named Do Hyun. She didn't hire me, Do Hyun says. She doesn't even know I looked into this. Seungho doesn't respond. I was working another case. Financial fraud. Came across Kang Minho's name in connection with some offshore accounts. Started digging. Found irregularities. Then I found her. And everything he said she did, he did. The offshore accounts, the falsified records, the embezzlement. All of it. He just moved it into her name before anyone could notice. Seungho turns a page in the file. Why are you bringing this to me? Do Hyun hesitates. Because she tried to fight it. She went to lawyers, journalists, investigators. No one would touch it. Minho's too connected. Too clean. And she's erased. Yes. Seungho closes the file. That still doesn't explain why you're here. Do Hyun leans forward. Because 6 years ago you helped my daughter when no one else would. She was being stalked by a man with political connections. The police wouldn't act. I couldn't protect her. You did. Seungho remembers. A quiet job. No violence. Just pressure applied in the right places until the man left the country. Your daughter is safe, Seungho says. That debt is paid. I know, Do Hyun says. But I still owe you. And when I saw this woman's case I thought. You thought I might care. I thought you might act. Seungho looks at him. Why would I? Do Hyun doesn't blink. Because you don't let people get away with this kind of thing. Silence. Then Seungho picks up the file again. Where is she now? Busan. Working at a convenience store. Barely surviving. And Kang Minho? Seoul. Senior Vice President at Hanseong Capital. He's being considered for a board position. There's a New Year's gala on the 31st. He'll be the guest of honor. Seungho looks out the window. The city lights are starting to come on. 5 days, he says quietly. What? 5 days until the new year. Do Hyun nods slowly. Are you going to help her? Seungho doesn't answer. He opens the file again. Studies the photo of Yuna clipped to the inside cover. She's not smiling. Her eyes are tired. But there's something else there. Not brokenness. Endurance. Leave the file, Seungho says. Do Hyun stands. Thank you. I haven't done anything yet. You will. Do Hyun leaves. Seungho sits alone in the dark office, the file open in front of him. He picks up his phone. Dials. A voice answers on the first ring. Yes, sir? I need a full workup on Kang Minho. Employment, financials, associations, weaknesses. Everything. Timeline? 48 hours. Understood. Seungho hangs up. He looks at Yuna's photo again. Then he stands and walks to the window. The city sprawls below him, indifferent and endless. But somewhere in Busan, a woman is crossing another day off a calendar. And she doesn't know it yet. But her countdown just changed. The next morning, Seungho drives to Busan. He doesn't call ahead. He doesn't announce himself. He simply arrives. The convenience store is small, wedged between a pharmacy and a shuttered restaurant. The sign flickers. The windows are fogged with condensation. He parks across the street and waits. At 7 a.m. the door opens. She steps outside, pulling her coat tighter against the cold. She looks thinner than in the photo. Tired. But she moves with purpose. She walks 3 blocks to a bus stop, checks the schedule and sits down on the bench. Seungho watches. She doesn't look at her phone. Doesn't speak to anyone. Just sits staring at nothing. The bus arrives. She boards. Seungho follows. Not close. Just close enough. She rides for 30 minutes, gets off near the waterfront, and walks to a small library. She goes inside. Seungho waits 15 minutes, then follows. She's sitting at a computer terminal in the back, typing slowly. He can see the screen from where he stands. She's searching for jobs. Legal assistant positions. Administrative roles. Anything. Every application asks for references. She leaves the section blank. After an hour, she closes the browser, stands, and leaves. Seungho doesn't follow her this time. He already knows what he needs to know. She's not broken. She's surviving. And that's enough. He returns to Seoul that afternoon. In his office, the full report on Kang Minho is waiting. It's comprehensive. Employment history. Financial assets. Properties. Relationships. Debts. Secrets. Seungho reads every page. And then he begins to plan. Not revenge. Something more precise. Dismantling. He picks up the phone. Assemble the team. I need financial, legal, and operational. Meeting tonight at 8. Subject. Kang Minho. Pause. Understood. Seungho hangs up. He opens the calendar on his desk. December 27th. 4 days until the new year. He picks up a pen. And begins to count down. Seungho does not move without strategy. Revenge is emotional. Justice is calculated. And what he plans for Kang Minho is neither. It's annihilation. But first he must ensure the woman is protected. Because men like Minho don't fall quietly. They lash out. And when they do, they go for the weakest targets. On the evening of December 27th, Seungho makes a call. The voice that answers is female, calm, efficient. Yes. I need a placement. Busan. Female, late 20s. Surveillance and close protection. Discreet. Duration. Indefinite. Priority? Absolute. Pause. I'll send Myri. Good. He hangs up. The next morning, Yuna wakes to find a woman sitting in the coffee shop across from the convenience store. The woman is young, maybe 30, with short hair and a long coat. She's reading a book, drinking tea, and paying no attention to anything. Yuna doesn't notice her. But Myri notices everything. She watches Yuna leave for work. Watches her return. Watches the men who loiter near the entrance of her building. Watches the car that drives past twice in an hour. And when Yuna walks home that night, Myri follows. 3 blocks from the apartment, 2 men step out of an alley. They don't say anything. They just block the path. Yuna stops. Her heart hammers. Can I help you? She asks, her voice steady despite the fear. One of the men smiles. Kang Minho says hello. Her blood goes cold. The man takes a step forward. And then Myri is there. She doesn't run. Doesn't shout. She simply steps between them and Yuna, her hands loose at her sides. Walk away, Myri says quietly. The men laugh. Who the hell are you? Someone who's asking nicely. We don't take orders from. Myri moves. Fast. Cling. The first man is on the ground before he realizes he's been hit. The second tries to grab her. She breaks his wrist. He screams. She doesn't blink. Walk away, she repeats. They stumble to their feet and run. Myri turns to Yuna. You're safe. Yuna stares at her, shaking. Who are you? Someone who's going to make sure nothing like that happens again. I don't understand. Myri hands her a card. It's blank except for a phone number. If you're in danger, call that number. Someone will answer. Who sent you? Myri doesn't answer. She just turns and walks away. Yuna stands alone in the dark street, holding the card. Her hands are still shaking. But for the first time in a year, she feels something other than fear. She feels noticed. Back in Seoul, Seungho receives a text. Contact made. Subject is secure. He deletes the message. Then he opens the next phase of the plan. Kang Minho has 3 vulnerabilities. First, his reputation is built on lies. Second, his finances are cleaner than they should be. Third, his ambition makes him reckless. Seungho will exploit all 3. But carefully. Minho cannot know he's being targeted until it's too late. Seungho picks up the phone and dials. A man answers. Yes. I need you to approach someone. Kang Minho. You're an investor. You're interested in a private deal. 50 million won. Offshore. Very quiet. What's the play? He'll take the meeting. He always does. When he does, I need you to record everything. And then? Then we wait. The man chuckles. Understood. Seungho hangs up. The first piece is in motion. On December 28th, Minho receives a call. An investor named Park Jaewon wants to meet. Private equity. Offshore opportunities. 50 million won on the table. Minho agrees immediately. They meet that evening at an expensive restaurant in Gangnam. Park Jae-won is charming, professional, and very convincing. "I've been following your work," Jae-won says, sipping his whiskey. "What you did with that tech acquisition fund? Impressive. Especially how you handled the internal issues." Minho smiles. "It was a difficult situation. I'm sure it was. But you came out ahead. That takes skill. And discretion." "Exactly." Jae-won leans forward. "Which is why I think we'd work well together. I have an opportunity. Very quiet. Very profitable. But it requires someone who knows how to manage complications." Miho's interest sharpens. "What kind of opportunity?" "Offshore fund. Clean. Untraceable. High yield. But it needs to move quickly." "How quickly?" "Before the new year." Minho hesitates. But only for a moment. "Tell me more." Jae-won does. And Minho listens. And agrees. And signs documents that will destroy him. All while Jae-won's phone records every word. On December 29th, Yuna wakes to find an envelope slipped under her door. Inside is cash. 2 million won. And a note. "You don't owe me anything. This is yours. Use it to survive." No signature. She stares at the money. Then at the note. She doesn't understand. But she doesn't throw it away. She sits on the floor of her apartment holding the envelope, and for the first time in months, she cries. Not from sadness. From something else. Relief. In Seoul, Seungho sits in his office. The recordings from Jae-won's meeting are on his desk. Clear. Damning. Enough. He forwards them to 3 people. A journalist at a major business publication. A prosecutor in the Financial Crimes Division. And the senior partners at Hanseong Capital. Then he leans back in his chair. And waits. 2 days until the new year. The clock is ticking. And Kang Minho doesn't know it yet. But his time just ran out. December 30th arrives cold and clear. In Busan, Yuna goes to work as usual. She stocks shelves. She runs the register. She doesn't think about the money under her mattress or the woman who saved her or the feeling that something is shifting in the air. She just works. Because that's what she's learned to do. Survive. But in Seoul, the ground is cracking beneath Kang Minho's feet. And he doesn't feel it yet. At 9 a.m., the journalist publishes the article. Rising Star or Rising Fraud? Questions surround Hanseong Capital executive. The piece is careful. Well-sourced. It doesn't accuse. It just asks questions. About offshore accounts. About meetings with unregistered investors. About financial irregularities that coincide with Minho's rapid rise. The article includes audio excerpts. Minho's voice, clear and confident, discussing discretion and untraceable funds. It quotes anonymous sources within Hanseong Capital who express concern about due diligence. And it ends with a single line. Representatives for Mr. Kang did not respond to requests for comment. By 10 a.m., the article has been shared 2,000 times. By noon, Hanseong Capital's legal team is in crisis mode. By 2 p.m., Kang Minho is sitting in a conference room with 4 senior partners and 2 lawyers. "I don't know what this is," he says, his voice tight. "I never met with this investor." The audio says otherwise. One of the partners replies. "It's fabricated. We'll investigate. But in the meantime, you're suspended pending review." Suspended? Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Minho stares at them. "You can't do this." "We can. And we are. This is insane. Someone is setting me up." "Then you'll have time to prove that." They stand. Minho doesn't move. "I built this division. I brought in 60 million won last year. And if this is true," the partner says coldly, "you did it by committing fraud." They leave. Minho sits alone in the conference room. His phone is buzzing. Texts, calls, journalists, investors, colleagues, all asking the same thing. Is it true? He doesn't answer. He just stares at the wall. And for the first time in his life, he feels something unfamiliar. Fear. That evening, the prosecutor opens an investigation. Not because of the article, but because of the financial records that were anonymously delivered to his office that morning. Records showing offshore accounts in Minho's name. Transfers made without authorization. Falsified documents submitted to regulators. The same things he accused Yuna of. But this time the evidence is real. The prosecutor assigns 2 investigators. By midnight, they've frozen 3 of Minho's accounts. By morning they'll have a warrant. In Gangnam, Seungho sits in his office. His phone rings. "It's done," Jae-won says. "The article is everywhere. The firm suspended him." "Good. What's next?" "Now we wait." "For what?" For him to panic. Seungho hangs up. He looks out the window. One day until the new year. December 31st. Minho wakes in his apartment to find his phone flooded with notifications. More articles. More questions. His lawyer calls. We need to talk. About what? The prosecution. They've opened an investigation. They're looking at your accounts. What accounts? All of them. Minho's stomach drops. This is a mistake. Then we'll prove it. But right now you need to stay quiet. Don't talk to anyone. Don't make any statements. What about the gala tonight? What gala? The New Year's event. I'm supposed to be the guest of honor. Silence. Then. Minho, you're not going to that gala. Why not? Because Han Seong just released a statement. You're no longer affiliated with the firm. They've terminated your contract. The line goes dead in his hand. Minho sits on the edge of his bed. His reflection stares back at him from the mirror across the room. He looks pale. Smaller. This isn't real, he thinks. This is a nightmare. It has to be. But the phone in his hand is real. The articles are real. The investigation is real. And somewhere, someone is doing this to him. He just doesn't know who. At 3 p.m., Minho receives a call from an unknown number. He almost doesn't answer. But he does. Hello. A voice. Mel. Come. Kang Minho. Who is this? Someone who knows what you did. Minho's chest tightens. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. You destroyed a woman named Han Yuna. You stole her work. You framed her. You erased her. Silence. And now, the voice continues, you're being erased. Who the hell are you? No one you'll ever meet. If you think you can. I already have. Your career is over. Your reputation is gone. Your accounts are frozen. And by tomorrow you'll be facing charges. Minho's hands shake. This is insane. No. This is justice. For what? For her? She was weak. She couldn't handle the pressure. And you couldn't handle the fact that she was better than you. Minho laughs bitterly. Better? She was nothing. She's still nothing. Wrong, the voice says. She survived you. That makes her stronger than you'll ever be. I'll fight this. You can try. I have resources. Connections. Not anymore. The line goes dead. Minho stares at the phone. Then he throws it across the room. It shatters against the wall. He sits in the silence. And realizes something. He's alone. That night, the New Year's gala proceeds without him. Han Seong Capital's CEO gives a speech about integrity and accountability. No one mentions Minho's name. But everyone knows. In Busan, Yuna sits on the roof of her building watching fireworks bloom over the water. She doesn't feel celebratory. But she doesn't feel empty either. She feels waiting. Like something is about to shift. And she's right. At 10 p.m. on New Year's Eve, Seungho drives to Busan. He doesn't call ahead. He just goes. He finds her on the roof, wrapped in a coat, staring at the distant city lights. She doesn't hear him approach. He stops a few feet away. Han Yuna. She turns. Stares. Who are you? Someone who needed to meet you. She stands slowly, her body tense. Did Minho send you? No. Then why are you here? Seungho steps closer. Not threatening. Just present. Because you deserved better than what happened to you. She blinks. I don't understand. Kang Minho will not see the new year with his empire intact, Seungho says quietly. He's been suspended. Investigated. Exposed. Everything he took from you, he's lost. Yuna's breath catches. What? It's over. He's finished. How do you know? Because I made sure of it. She stares at him. Why? Because someone needed to. Tears well in her eyes. She doesn't wipe them away. I don't even know you. You don't need to. Is this real? She whispers. Yes. She sits down hard on the roof ledge. Seungho sits beside her. Not close. Just near. I thought I was going to disappear, she says. I thought no one would ever remember my name. They will now. Because of you. Because of you, Seungho corrects. You survived. That's what matters. I didn't do anything. You didn't give up. That's everything. She looks at him. Who are you? Someone who solves problems. By destroying people? By answering debts. She's quiet for a long time. Then, thank you. Seungho nods. What will you do now? He asks. I don't know. You could go back to Seoul. Rebuild. I don't think I want to. Then what do you want? She looks out at the water. I want to stop being afraid. You already have. She smiles. Small. But real. Maybe. Seungho stands. If you need anything. I know, she says, holding up the card Myri gave her. I call the number. He nods. Then turns to leave. Wait, she says. He stops. Will I see you again? Seungho looks back at her. Only if you want to. And then he's gone. At 11:58 p.m., Yuna stands alone on the roof. The city is alive with sound. Fireworks. Music. Shouting. The countdown begins. 10, 9, 8. She closes her eyes. 7, 6, 5. She thinks about the year that broke her. 4, 3. And the year that saved her. 2, 1. The fireworks explode. The new year begins. And somewhere in Seoul, Kang Minho sits in his empty apartment, watching the same fireworks through a window. But he is not celebrating. He is not smiling. He is just alone. And that is exactly where he belongs. In Gangnam, Seungho sits in his office. The city roars below him. His phone buzzes. A message from Do Hyun. Thank you. Seungho doesn't reply. He just looks out at the skyline. Another year. Another problem solved. Another life reclaimed. He picks up a glass of whiskey. And as the clock strikes midnight, he raises it. Not to himself, but to the woman on a rooftop in Busan, who survived, who endured, who crossed into the new year stronger than the man who tried to destroy her. And that, Seungho thinks, is justice. 3 months later, Yuna opens a small consulting firm in Busan. She doesn't go back to Seoul. She doesn't need to. She works with startups, women-owned businesses, people who've been overlooked. She's not rich, but she's free. And every time she closes a deal, she thinks about the man on the roof who told her she'd already survived. He was right. Kang Minho's trial begins in April. He's charged with embezzlement, fraud, and falsifying corporate records. The evidence is overwhelming. He's sentenced to 8 years. No one from Hanseong Capital attends the hearing. He writes Yuna a letter from prison. She never opens it. She just burns it and moves on. In Seoul, Seungho sits in his office. A new file waits on his desk. Another problem. Another injustice. Another countdown. He opens it, reads the first page, and begins to plan. Because in the Forbidden Empire, time is never wasted. And some people don't get to finish the year. This is Forbidden Empire, where power answers injustice, where silence breaks before midnight, and where dangerous men protect what the world discarded. Subscribe. Stay. Because there are always more stories, and the clock is always ticking.